A super El Niño is forming, and it is poised to dramatically reshape weather patterns across the globe. Beneath the surface, a vast pool of warm water is shifting, tilting the heat balance of our entire planet. This isn't just a storm, it's a massive, slow-moving shift in ocean temperatures that disrupts global weather.
Scientists are tracking this monster, warning that it will tear through winter and unleash chaos from California to Africa.
But how much of this is real, and how much is just fear-mongering designed to grab headlines?
To understand the truth, we must look at the science behind the most powerful weather pattern on Earth.
Let's cut through the hype and examine what this El Niño can actually do to the year ahead.
Scientists are tracking this monster, warning that it will tear through winter and unleash chaos from California to Africa. El Niño is not a single storm, but a complex phase of a giant seesaw between the ocean and atmosphere.
Scientists call this ENSO, the El Niño Southern Oscillation, where the ocean and atmosphere are locked in a dance.
Normally, steady trade winds push warm surface water westward, piling it up near Indonesia, while cool water rises in the east.
Think of it like blowing across the top of a full bathtub, where warm water gathers on one side.
The name El Niño comes from fishermen who noticed this warm water shift every few years, often around Christmas time.
They called this warm current El Niño, or the boy, a quiet nod to the Christ child, which they associated with fishing.
El Niño begins when those trade winds lose their nerve, weakening or even reversing, allowing warm water to slosh back eastward.
This warm patch shifts the atmosphere, changing where air rises and sinks, effectively moving the world's major storm tracks. The ocean and atmosphere are locked together, each pushing on the other, until the entire system tips into a new mood.
The Pacific covers a third of the planet, so shifting its heat creates massive ripples that affect nearly every country.
Move the jet streams, and you move the storms they carry, which is why El Niño is so impactful.
A warm patch in the middle of the ocean becomes a rearranged winter on the other side of the world. This chain of cause and effect is why one ocean's mood can reach into nearly every country on Earth. Scientists watch this for living, sitting up straighter than usual when the data starts to show a strong signal.
It starts with sudden blasts of wind from the west, brief but powerful, pushing warm water eastward.
Below the surface, this warmth travels in slow, deep pulses, surfacing weeks later like a delayed signal. None of this is guesswork. A line of anchored buoys across the equator takes the ocean's temperature hour after hour. These floating robots drift through the water column, while satellites measure the exact height and warmth of the sea. Together, they feed a constant stream of numbers to forecasters, allowing us to watch this thing build in real time. Forecasters line these maps up next to the great events of the past, the powerful El Niño years that people remember. And one more piece makes this moment different. The ocean was already hot before any of this began. Sea temperatures around the world have been sitting at record highs, making this event a stacking of heat on an already elevated baseline. The official forecasters now put real odds on this growing into one of the strong ones, with a meaningful chance of climbing.
Before we go further, the part that actually matters is not the scary map, but how it quietly loads the dice.
It changes the odds of floods, droughts, and storms for billions of people, very possibly including you. Let's look at where those loaded dice come down first, starting with the threat most people worry about: hurricanes. First, that word everyone keeps using: super. You will not find it on any official chart because it's a media label.
The agencies then sort it into plain, unglamorous tiers: weak, moderate, strong, and very strong.
It increases the chances of heavy rains, dry spells, and strange warmth in the regions El Niño tends to touch.
Take hurricanes, where El Niño plays a strange double game depending on which ocean you happen to be standing beside. The reason comes down to wind. A powerful El Niño cranks up the high-altitude winds racing across the Atlantic. Young hurricanes are fragile while they form, and they need calm, stacked air to build their towering structure. When fast upper winds tear across the top of a budding storm, they shear its head off before it can organize.
So a strong event tends to mean a quieter Atlantic season. But the catch this time is that overheated ocean we mentioned.
All that extra warmth is hurricane fuel, and it may partly cancel out the calming effect, leaving a season harder to call. It's no accident that some of the calmest Atlantic hurricane seasons on record have landed in strong El Niño years. The ocean and the wind are quietly negotiating every summer, and El Niño is one of the loudest voices at the table. Cross over to the eastern Pacific, near Mexico and out toward Hawaii, and the pattern flips its hand completely.
The very conditions that calm the Atlantic tend to energize the Pacific, warming the water and easing the winds.
One blunt truth is worth holding on to through all of this. Seasonal totals barely matter for any single person. The bigger, more personal story for most viewers is the winter. This is where the warm phase leaves its clearest mark across North America by bending one specific river of wind.
During El Niño, a high, fast current of air called the subtropical jet stream sags southward and powers up.
It turns into a kind of conveyor belt for storms, aimed straight at the southern United States. For California and the southern tier, that usually means a wetter, stormier season. Storm after storm can roll ashore along that southern track, piling up into serious rain and flooding. It's the same conveyor that can turn a normally mild region into a parade of downpours. That has a flip side worth naming. For a parched Southwest, a big El Niño can be a lifeline. A stronger El Niño does not flip a switch that forces the same weather everywhere. It raises the probability of extremes. The same storm track that threatens flood damage can also break a long drought. Whether it lands as disaster or relief often comes down to how fast the rain arrives, and on ground that was ready for it or not.
Drift north, though, and the picture flips.
Across the northern United States and up into Canada, the warm phase tends to bring milder, drier winters.
The cold air stays bottled up farther north, the storm track slides away to the south, and the snow that northern cities count on can simply fail to show up. A winter that feels strangely gentle in Minnesota can be the very same event soaking California to the bone. And this is not only a North American story.
The same shift that drank Australia and Indonesia.
It can flip the weather in South America, flooding parts of Peru that are normally bone dry.
Reaching even further, a strong El Niño can weaken the great monsoon that waters India, where a single rainy season touches hundreds of millions of lives.
One warm patch of ocean felt on nearly every continent at once.
The trickiest region of all is the Northeast, and the big snow corridor around it, where forecasters turn genuinely cagey. A strong winter event can load those storms with so much warm, moist air that they arrive as rain or punishing ice instead of snow.
Or it can still drop a blockbuster blizzard if the timing lines up just wrong.
And underneath every one of these tendencies sits one honest caveat. No two of these events are ever quite alike. These are odds the ocean is shifting, not a script it is bound to follow. Which brings us back to all that noise online and what it tends to get wrong. Let's be clear about the biggest one. This is not the apocalypse. A big El Niño does not end civilization, collapse the food supply, or crack the planet in half. Whatever a breathless thumbnail might promise. It's a powerful natural swing in a system that has been swinging for thousands of years, long before anyone was around to film it. It helps to know the tells of a fear-farming video when you see one. A melting, cracking planet on the thumbnail, a promise that something unbelievable is about to happen. Honest forecasting almost never looks like that. It looks like probabilities, ranges, and careful words, because the honest version of this story is dramatic enough without the costume. Where it does bite quietly is your wallet.
El Niño can scorch farmland with drought across parts of Asia and Australia.
And when those harvests suffer, the price of everyday things you would never link to the Pacific can drift upward on the far side of the world.
Coffee, rice, sugar, the effect is real, but it shows up as a slightly steeper grocery receipt, not a disaster movie.
Close to where the name was born, the bite is sharper.
When that warm water spreads along South America, it caps off the cold, nutrient-rich upwelling that feeds one of the richest feeding grounds on Earth. The vast schools of small fish that depend on it can vanish for a season. The fishermen who named El Niño centuries ago were watching the leading edge of exactly this. There's also a genuinely new wrinkle, and it is the one worth taking seriously.
Every El Niño in the past played out on a steady stage.
This one is dancing on a stage that is itself getting warmer year after year. That background heating means each new event pushes into conditions no one has ever measured before, which makes the old historical patterns a rougher guide than they used to be. The real danger is not some sudden doomsday. It is that we are running the experiment in territory the record books have simply never seen. So strip away the screaming headlines, and what are we actually left with? Not a single monster storm bearing down on the world, but a shift in the planet's pulse. A change in the rhythm of the great engine that drives our weather.
It's not something to panic over. It's something to respect and, above all, to understand. And
Coffee, rice, sugar, the effect is real, but it shows up as a slightly steeper grocery receipt, not a disaster movie.
Close to where the name was born, the bite is sharper. Think about what that really means.
A few generations ago, an El Niño was something only recognized in hindsight. After the floods and the failed crops had already come and gone. These days, we catch it in the act. From buoys bobbing in the open Pacific to satellites watching the sea change color from orbit. That early warning is one of the quiet triumphs of modern science. And it is the reason a shift like this is a challenge to manage, rather than a catastrophe to survive. And the remarkable part is that we can see it coming. Read the ocean months ahead and get a genuine warning with time to prepare instead of simply reacting. The smart move is the calm one. Watch the data, not the headlines. While the Pacific quietly puts on one of the grandest performances in all of nature. If the idea of a slow-building disaster we can see coming pulls you in, there is another one already loading beneath North America. And it is far less forgiving than a wet winter. We laid out the whole threat in our video on the 2 earthquakes that will shatter America.